The NASCAR Cup Series schedule in recent years has morphed into this monster that even tops Frankenstein. They've added Formula One tracks, they've added IndyCar tracks, they've added a short track with dirt on it, they've added a college football stadium. They've raced near, with the emphasis on near, the fastest growing city in the nation, and they've raced in the greatest sports city in the nation. You know what Steve Phelps, the man we all know and love as NASCAR fans, said about this 2023 version? 2 words: we're going to be bold and innovative. With that, you know things are going to be good, as NRF Productions proudly presents the Spotter's Guide, predicting the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. The bold and innovative move with this iteration of the NASCAR schedule that everyone's been talking about, everyone and their mother has been talking and speculating to death, relies with the market known as Chicago. It's been 3 years since the Windy City last hosted a NASCAR Cup Series race, and a lot has changed since Alex Bowman got stuck in the mud celebrating his first career win. Let's not plug our nostrils in this situation and ignore the strong odor coming from Chicago sports. The Blackhawks are trash, the Cubs suck. That's good if you're a St. Louis fan like me, but if you're a Chicago fan right now and you want to see the sports landscape freshened up and to keep your mind off of the Ricketts and the McCaskies, NASCAR could be that thing that comes in and brightens up things for a week out of the year. Freshness is also the definition of NASCAR since their last visit here. Michael Jordan, who won 6 NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls, is now a Cup Series team owner. And I know NASCAR fans, they want to get more people to cheer for Bubba Wallace in 2311 racing, because when you go to just about any race in the South or the Midwest, Bubba Wallace is met with a loud chorus of boos. Solution number 1 to getting Chicago, this third biggest market in the entire nation, back on the schedule is the return of the fan favorite Chicagoland Speedway. I'm going to go ahead and say this isn't the best NASCAR track. I think Chicago was mid in the 2000s, but then in 2018 and 2019 they had some really good races, or should I say really good finishes. And with that, it's provoked a lot of nostalgia within the NASCAR fan base. They want to see more Chicagoland Speedway. Given how Chicagoland's twin sister, the Kansas Speedway, has looked with the next generation car, there's no question she'll put on just as attractive of a show. My only problem with NASCAR bringing back the Chicagoland racetrack is that they don't invest in this place, because in 2001, this place had all the novelty, all the potential, and then they did nothing. They didn't invest into anything. They didn't add some entertainment aspects, add anything new around the track like we see at the sister track in Kansas Speedway. And in the long term, that was not a good move, because this isn't a track in Chicago. This is Joliet, Illinois. This is about 40 minutes away from downtown Chicago. You need to be more than just a NASCAR track if you want to get the casuals to drive all the way down south from one of the most entertaining cities, although a lot of people will say it's overrated, to attend a race all the way in Joliet, Illinois. So maybe it won't be until after Chicagoland needs a repay that they will do something serious to this piece of land. If anything, why don't we build the proposed Auto Club short track, put it here instead of tearing down one of the most unique tracks on the NASCAR schedule? So that's just one way to bring back Chicago, as there is another option. Yes, the Chicagoland Speedway might get left out completely. And that other option, remember that time NASCAR as a whole, they had iRacing scan a fictionalized street course in Chicago for a Pro Invitational Series race. Remember that? Industry chatter over the past few weeks is indicating that this track will become reality with an announcement as soon as July 29th. And in many ways, this is NASCAR knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone, as they've wanted to make a big splash in the Midwest, specifically Chicago, and they've also wanted to capture that casual fan. They've been chasing this rabbit for years. They want the attention of Mark, who's strolling down the streets of Chicago with a Supreme long sleeve shirt on. He's got the Vans sneakers, he's got skinny jeans on, he's got an AirPods listening to Kid Laroi, and he's ready to purchase a brand new set of NFTs. Meanwhile, as he's going down Chicago, all of a sudden Mark is caught off guard by this breeze. He looks up and sees NASCAR flying down the streets of Chicago, and instantly he becomes a fan. This is the scenario that Steve Phelps and Ben Kennedy dream about every single night. Now, honestly, there's nothing wrong with Mark becoming a NASCAR fan. Where I have a problem with this is, why are we trying to cave into Mark? I think in many situations, trying to get his attention is like trying to catch a rabbit. Once you catch it, I mean, what's it going to do after that? You know, you're going to have him for 3-4 seconds, but then after that, he's going to be off doing something else. If NASCAR really wants a guy like Mark to become invested in the sport and become a NASCAR fan, honestly, the Chicago street course is not the way to go. There are better ways about going about this, like getting your drivers out there, making them become more relatable to these guys, you know, more promotions, because there's been a noticeable lack of Fox and NBC ads around some of the platforms that they want to attract these race fans. And I think that is a better way to attract these casual fans than throwing yourself right into the middle of downtown Chicago at the expense of the diehard fans, at the expense of markets that actually want and will actually support a NASCAR Cup Series race for years to come. And the market that could be at the expense to try to chase Mark is Road America, which is a die-hard racing facility. You know, there's people that come out to anything Road America, IndyCar, NASCAR, you know, the sports car divisions. They will consume anything because they are loyal to this racetrack. And even as Road America, they have that loyal support. They have done a good job showing up for their 2 races. We all know the fact that ISC and SMI, they run this show. None of their dates are going to get scrapped off the schedule. So because of that, rumors are that Road America is going to be 2 and done, even after pulling 100,000 people to their race. They don't have a deal for 2023, and NASCAR seems a bit hesitant to add more road courses, which I'm just going to say it's stupid. NASCAR does not have too many road courses. The entire freaking Formula One schedule is road courses or street courses. A majority of the IndyCar schedule is road courses, with the exception of tracks like Indianapolis for the Indy 500 and Wide Technology Raceway. NASCAR has just 1/6 of their races on road courses, and yet here we are trying to get rid of Road America. Though in a situation where Road America does come back, and I dearly hope it does. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the casual fans hate it because the race, you know, it gets strung out. It's not the most exciting race. But in this situation, I think if they come back, NASCAR is going to choose to spend 4th of July elsewhere. It says a lot when the NASCAR Cup Series, which has not been on networks like NBCSN and USA since NBC picked up the broadcasting rights, since this TV contract that started in 2015. When they play second fiddle to IndyCar and the WeatherTech Championship, that is something alarming. Road America might be the best tourism spot for 4th of July, but we all know damn well TV controls everything. This is not a race that the big network thinks is going to be attractive to casuals and NASCAR fans. Something that is going to get people to skip the barbecue to come sit down for 3 hours and watch a NASCAR race. It's honestly hard to see NASCAR not returning to a super speedway, whether that is the return of the Daytona 400, the traditional race on 4th of July weekend, or the track that I know and love, that track, as I call it, Trashlanta. Look, I despise this configuration of Atlanta. This is not racing, this is glorified entertainment, which is exactly why this type of entertainment for the NASCAR Cup Series is going to get people to skip out on the barbecues, to skip spending time with friends and family, to instead watch a NASCAR race. And with that, I think NASCAR is in for yet another splash with one of their biggest weekends of the year. A splash just like the Clash was this year at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. This was a giant leap of faith for the industry, as there was a lot on the line here to not only race in the second largest city, but right in the heart of downtown a week before the Super Bowl. They rode the tide to incredible attendance numbers and incredible TV ratings. And as for the move for the Clash in 2023, guess what? It sounds like they are going to ride the tide until the novelty dies out completely. And I'm going to say this was a horrible move for NASCAR, as I hate to dog on the motorsport because they have made some good decisions with the schedule. But in terms of this had all the makings of what the NHL does for the Winter Classic. They bring NASCAR outside of its element to multiple historic venues across the states and even the world, and that is the novelty of this event. They had it right there, yet instead of shuffling the deck, we are just gonna keep going to the Coliseum every single year until the hype, until the novelty of this race is sucked dry, just like NASCAR drivers when their Goodyear tire gets sucked of all its air. So where would I have put it in the second year? That is hands down in Florida, where it should be as a ploy to hype up the Daytona 500. They could have done Orlando in their soccer stadium. Yes, it's not a lot of people, but I think this is a market that could potentially get more people interested in NASCAR, especially in the state of Florida. Or you obviously have a larger capacity stadium, which is Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the Florida Gators. Then maybe in 2024, right before the new TV deal, you go to a place like Atlanta or Charlotte, you really energize the fan bases there. Now, the only problem with that is the weather might be bad, but Atlanta, they've got that dome stadium. Maybe you can work something out to where it could work for NASCAR. And then after that, after the TV contract ends, you take the Clash out of being the number one race and you put it to the midsummer, where you can go to places like Chicago, you can go to New York, you can go to Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. So many places where you can grow NASCAR. And that's why I do not like NASCAR's return to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Despite NASCAR's claims at being bold and creative, this event is one of their uncreative blunders for the 2023 schedule. Something else uncreative, and here we go again. I'm just going to keep dogging on some of their decisions. Trust me guys, we're going to get to some light at the end of the tunnel, and that is the All-Star Race. An event fast in its decline fell to even lower lows with this year's running at Texas for the second time. All the top drivers, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson, the true all-stars of the season, were knocked out of the race before the third segment of the race. No one could pass for the lead in a race where nothing matters other than the lead. This is, running for the bag of dough. And when you're having battles for second and 10th, that doesn't matter. It only matters who is leading the race. And we did not see that at all. I'm going to be honest, guys. If NASCAR runs this at Texas or even a place like Charlotte or Atlanta, I might just skip this race entirely, take an off week to do something else. Because the All-Star race, it's just not special anymore. So who is coming to save the day? And that is Fox Sports, as after their influence allotted for NASCAR's return to dirt and the clash at the Coliseum, everyone's favorite broadcast partner wants the All-Star race to become a rotational event. And what I gotta say to that is about time. Why are we racing the All-Star race at Cup Series tracks that are on the schedule every single year? There's a big wide world of racetracks all across the country, all across the world, and yet we've only ever been to Atlanta, Texas, Bristol, and Charlotte. Go to South Boston, go to IRP. Heck, if they want to rejuvenate this event, run freaking North Wilkesboro on dirt. That last one is more for the fan base that wants to feel some sort of engines for 1996. Or if you really want, go to Chicago and run Soldier Field. The All-Star race is not going to have the novelty of a different event with this current season structure, the win and you're in format, unless you go somewhere as a once-in-a-generation show. Trying to make it something like the Field of Dreams for MLB. Otherwise, there will be more duds and you will get more people tuning out of the All-Star race every single year. Continuing with big markets and big events, we have to talk about the Nashville Superspeedway. Year 2 of NASCAR, as they love to call it, was a massive flop. Not from the racing standpoint, as you didn't have the Kyle Larson effect in this race, and you also, the next generation car, do really well in this first showing at the Nashville Superspeedway. If this 1 1/3 mile oval needed to cement itself as a racetrack, I think it did so in this second race. That's not the alarming issue. Despite all the talk about expansion due to the inaugural race selling tickets like hotcakes, Nashville Superspeedway failed to sell out a 40,000 seat venue. This needs to be talked about more because this is pathetic. The local, casual, and the die-hard Nashville and Tennessee NASCAR market said we're done with this racetrack in a big way. Now the reason for that is a bit unclear. Were fans still scarred from the horrid traffic plan that delayed the start of this inaugural Cup race? Was it because they didn't allow coolers for one of the hottest races of the year? Or was it starting the race on a Sunday at 5 p.m. local time? At least with Kentucky, they had the excuse of being a big venue in a small market. Nashville is one of the fastest growing cities and one of the biggest tourist destinations in the entire nation. My only reasonable guess when it comes to changes is that the date could move up to the Fox portion of the schedule, therefore you get nicer weather. But either way, NASCAR and Nashville and the Speedway Motorsports organization, they have to figure this out because this is a market that NASCAR needs to be doing better in, and they can't be having low attendance like in this second Ally 400. Perhaps Nashville and NASCAR will be what not to do for Wide Technology Raceway when they prepare for their second race in 2023. Though you had the nightmarish concession situation due to the track being short-staffed, the inaugural race overall was a huge hit with both fans and people in the industry. Gateway further proved that the St. Louis market was undervalued and overlooked for decades, and honestly, it could be again depending on what happens with Road America. I swear, if we lose our Cup and Truck race to freaking Portland to try to chase the 5 fans there like they tried to do with the Xfinity race we should have gotten, I'm going to be pissed like many St. Louisans. And trust me, if that happens, the France family is going to be up there with Stan Kroenke as the most hated sports figures in this region. Fortunately, that's not a topic that will be addressed until 2025, as this inaugural running was the first of a 3-year deal. For 2023, honestly, I would expect this race to be in the springtime again, perhaps as early as May, as the weather in St. Louis in early to mid-May, it is fantastic. Or maybe NASCAR continues their bold and innovative schedule and they decide to run this race in the NASCAR playoffs. This is something worth thinking about because you have the Kansas Fall Weekend in September. Potentially that could be freed up if they lose a race. And also keep in mind, this is not just a market that doesn't have an NFL team thanks to this guy, but also when you look at the racing that was produced in this inaugural running, you had tempers, you had close quarter racing. It could be the perfect prelude to the Bristol night race, which has tempers, and obviously it's the cutoff race. This could be the perfect match for NASCAR trying to create a bold and innovative playoffs. Something to keep in mind. Finally, for the fourth consecutive year, the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series champion will be crowned in Avondale, Arizona during the first week of November. A move that has the fan base up in arms, and I think that is something you are always going to get because this is the final race. This is the championship winner-take-all event, so obviously there is going to be different viewpoints on what should be this final race. So you're going to get a lot of NASCAR fans that are going to complain no matter what. If you keep it in Phoenix, NASCAR fans are gonna and have complained about the racing product. Move it to Bristol and it is inevitable you are going to get a championship race that gets rained out and moved to USA Network to interrupt someone's 3-hour long binge watching of Law and Order. Plus obviously the NASCAR fans are going to riot with the championship race being on cable because this is NBC. Move it to Martinsville. Even with the racing product, you're going to hear about how we should have had it somewhere nicer because NASCAR fans don't want to sit out in the cold this time of year. You're never going to win. And with Phoenix, I think in this situation, it is overall the complete package because it's a 9 or 10 in climate. It has a decent racing product. And then obviously you have the venue, state of the art. They invested millions of dollars into making this a top-notch facility. And considering that this race sold out yet again and in May of all months, I don't expect NASCAR to move it until the novelty wears off. Which for now, the NASCAR Championship in Phoenix seems to be the subway ride combination as Larry Mack would call it. So that's all the storylines going into the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series schedule, one that should see some changes as the France family continues to spin the wheel of innovation. So what changes do I see happening? They may not necessarily be the changes I want to see, but it is the things that NASCAR is chasing after. They're chasing after these markets, these fans, and so let's get into it. So the first major change is the Darlington Throwback Weekend. Traditionally in May, it is going to move up to the 5th race of the year. South Carolina, it is a decent place to have a race in March. They have had some decent weather. They've obviously hosted races in the past this early in the season, so I think it'll work out well. And then it'll free up the Mother's Day race for another market, for one that needs to have a good race, a good showing, and that is going to be Nashville. Tennessee in May shouldn't be the heat wave it was in June, and with the Bristol Dirt Race moving up a week because of Easter, as it should remain on that Easter date because of how successful it was this year, you are going to have a race that is going to be more fan friendly. Texas Motor Speedway will not host the All-Star race. Instead, they get their second race back because they have probably a deal to have 2 races every single year. As for Wide Technology Raceway, the anticipated second Cup weekend there will take place 2 weeks earlier, right before the traditional Coca-Cola 600. And so the NASCAR on Fox portion of the season, like in 2020 and 2021, it is going to end with the All-Star race and it will be run in Atlanta. I think something that you have to look at here is that Folds of Honor Quick Trip for the spring race, they will not sponsor this race. They did not renew their sponsorship option. And so that means for the first time, the All-Star race is going to be held on a superspeedway because there are no strings attached. And so we get into the NBC portion, and that all begins with Road America. I think in the long run, cooler heads are going to prevail. They're going to keep this race on the schedule, though it will not be the 4th of July race. Instead, it will be the prelude to the Daytona 400, its magnificent return on 4th of July weekend. So why is it back? Well, we're going to get to that in a little bit, as I think the Kansas Speedway, it is going to back up the Daytona race with their lone race of the season. Keep in mind, lone race of the year. One 400-mile race on a hot Sunday afternoon in Kansas City. And taking its date is going to be the Chicago Street Course. This monster was once a pipe dream, but it will now be a reality, and it will be the highlight of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Taking place in mid-August, a decent climate for Chicago and 3 races before the NASCAR playoffs. Watkins Glen will be the second to last race again before we head to Atlanta, I'm sorry, I cannot refrain from this, for the regular season finale. The final race to win to get in, and it is going to be a big one, and it is also going to be at night, and that is something that a lot of Atlanta fans have wanted, especially in the summer. You know, with the heat in Atlanta that time of year, it is going to be a fan-friendly race for the people in Georgia. The final significant change is one the diehards are going to love, as when I say whether it is going to be the Chicago Street Course or Chicagoland returning to build up the Chicago market, I say yes. The street race will be the build-up to the return of Chicagoland as the second race in the NASCAR playoffs. This is a strategy that we saw with Los Angeles, with the LA Coliseum being 2-3 weeks before the Auto Club race, and there was a slightly increased attendance for that race. So in total, added to the schedule is going to be Chicago in both the street version and the oval, as well as the Texas Motor Speedway points event. Subtracted is the Atlanta 500, one of the Kansas 400-mile races, and the Richmond Summer Race. As I didn't really get to Richmond, that track, it just seems to be going downhill. There's not a lot of hype. The racing isn't as good as it used to be. Yes, it's a short track, but I think NASCAR is going to look for bigger and better things, and Richmond is going to see one of their races get cut. And the only one is going to be the April race, which is once again going to be in the day, which I think is a mistake. I think the one Richmond race should be a night race like it has for so many years. So yet again, you can see NASCAR bold and innovative. It goes with their theme of the 2020s. And, yet again, we're going to see NASCAR spin the wheel in a big way. So anyways, this is Nathan for NRF Productions signing out. And just remember, guys and gals, life's a beach and then you drive.